Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. And I want to talk about a game. We just talked about Alabama, South Florida. I want to talk about a game that was basically the exact opposite of Alabama, South Florida. Alabama, South Florida had no vibe, no energy, weird weather, weird camera angles because the cameramen had to evacuate over the weather. And I bring it up because Colorado State, Colorado was essentially the exact opposite. It obviously had the lead, the pregame hype with, first of all, the Jay Norvell, Coach Prime back and forth. But then you had College Game Day in town. You had Pat McAfee in town. You had Big Noon Kickoff in town. You had Lil Wayne leading the team out of the tunnel. You had The Rock on the sidelines. I saw Kawhi Leonard, I think, was there. Chauncey Billups was there. So it was a vibe. It was energy. And I'll say this, it was a wild, crazy back and forth game. Certainly one of the most entertaining games we've seen all year. And before we even get into the breakdown and the this and the that, let me say this. Doesn't that speak to who Coach Prime is and what he has already done, the interest that he has created in this, not only this program, but all of college football? That game, that energy, that vibe, it was like USC Pete Carroll on steroids, watching the game, sidelines, all of that. But let's get into the game. Let's talk about it. And really, when I think about the game, a couple things stand out. The first one is there was real bad blood in that stadium on Saturday night. We live in the world where everybody talks the talk, and then after the game, they want to take pictures and swap jerseys and do all that. No, there was real anger, real hostility, and it obviously translated onto the field where, of course, let's call a spade a spade. Colorado State played kind of dirty, a lot of dirty. Not going to lie, not going to sugarcoat it. Travis Hunter gets knocked out. He goes to the hospital. Now, thankfully, he's okay. There was 2 or 3 just real cheap shots on Shudor Sanders, including the one in overtime that knocked that guy out of the game for the, kind of the falling on top of Shudor. Glad he's okay. But the one thing I will say is while it was dirty, while Colorado State had 17 penalties, I think 163 yards, they were also kind of in control of that game. They jumped out to a lead early. They were not afraid all week long. They said, we don't care what they say about us in Boulder. They don't care if we hear us in Boulder. And they played like it. They knew it was their biggest game. They knew it was a national stage. They knew they had a chance. Hey, this is the biggest stage we're going to have all year. Let's go out and win that game. Let me say this, though. That's also what made the decision by Jay Norvell on 4th and 2 late in the game so jarring. And I think everybody knows the background. But for those of you who did not stay up until 2:30 a.m., and I'm guessing it was a lot of you, wild decision by Jay Norvell. So they had been in control all game. They had the lead. They were up 28-21. They were on the Colorado side of the field, 2 minutes to go. 4th and 2. And they decided to punt the ball back to Shudor Sanders, to Colorado, and to give the ball to Shudor Sanders. And we're going to get into what Shudor did in a minute. But I think that was the moment right there where they lost that game. Because to me, all week long, what was the entire vibe out of Colorado State, excuse me. It was exactly what I just said. We're tired of hearing about them. We're not afraid of them. We're coming to play. We're coming to win. And it felt like every decision Jay Norvell made all week, starting on Wednesday night when he decided to call out Coach Prime, all the way through, midway through, late into the 4th quarter, was about, we're not playing scared. We're playing to win. So to punt the ball back, up a touchdown with 2 minutes to go, when if you get the first down, you can essentially ice the game. I don't know that I love that from Jay Norvell. And we all know what happened from there. Shudor Sanders gets the ball. Shudor Sanders drives Colorado the length of the field, 98 yards in about 1:30. They force overtime, and they end up winning in double overtime. Now, in terms of takeaways, a couple things stand out. From the Colorado perspective, listen, I give them a lot of credit, right? Because I thought last week, Nebraska, I wasn't really worried about the moment getting too big for them. Again, a lot of these guys came with Coach Prime from Jackson State. They were the biggest game when they were at Jackson State. They were the biggest game on everybody's schedule. And so I didn't really worry about it last week against Nebraska. But this week, I don't know how you can't get overwhelmed by the hype. Like I said, it's not just that you're 1-0. It's not just that you're the biggest story in college football. But one, you have another coach talking about your coach. You have a situation where everybody's in town to see you. You have the sunglasses. You have the this. You have the that. You have all the interviews, all the media opportunities, and then it's game day, and there's The Rock, and there's Lil Wayne. And even Shudor Sanders mentioned in the postgame, like, yeah, it was a lot to process. So I don't think it was Colorado's best effort. But you know what also stood out about this game to me? And I think this is important. I think really two things about Colorado finding a way to win stood out to me. Is that I think watching that game, and I was thinking about this during, the moment in time where it felt like they were probably going to lose, is I think because of the hype, because of the excitement, because of Coach Prime and everything he brings and all the celebrities and all that stuff, I think we're starting to forget how incredible this story is and how great of a job that Coach Prime has done. Because if you watch that game, the thing that stood out was like, this Colorado team, they're a great story. And Shudor Sanders is a first-round quarterback, and Travis Hunter, when he's not getting, drilled in the chest illegally, is an A++ athlete, the likes of which we've maybe never seen before. But this team also has a lot of holes, right? Especially early, middle of the game. Shudor Sanders is back there getting killed. I mean, I saw a report from the stadium. They didn't even know if he was going to be able to go in the second half. He was limping. He was beat up. He was this. He was that. And it makes me realize this is still a program that is very much a work in progress. The offensive line isn't where it needs to be. Now, by the way, it shouldn't be. Remember, this was by far the worst team and the worst roster in college football last season. There was a reason that Coach Prime had to bring in 65, 70 new scholarship players, whatever the number ended up being. They weren't good. And so what I learned on Saturday was a couple things. Is one, first of all, Shudor Sanders is a dog, man. Like, by the way, shout out to his brother, the pick six, all that. I don't want to dismiss Shiloh. I know that Coach Prime talked after the game about, having a father moment there where he wasn't a coach. He was just a father. He was so proud of him for all his hard work. But from Shudor Sanders' perspective, man, I'll tell you what, I give that kid so much freaking credit because he's playing in a game. The offensive line hasn't been great. I would argue the offensive line wasn't even great against Nebraska last week. We just didn't notice it because Jeff Simmons kept fumbling the ball and giving it back to Colorado. But I bring it up only because that game for Shudor Sanders made me appreciate not only how talented he is, but how tough he is. Sometimes we know how it is, right? Coach's son, he's a quarterback, he's this, he's that. No. Shudor Sanders got the crap kicked out of him and kept getting back up every single time. And so when I think about him as a player, newfound respect. I'll also say this. We haven't talked a ton about Shudor as an NFL draft prospect. I don't know how an NFL team can't be thrilled to see the toughness that he brings because ultimately, let's be honest, Shudor is going to be a high draft pick whenever he declares, and he's probably going to go to a bad team, and he's probably not going to have a great offensive line. And so you're seeing him now in adversity. This isn't like playing at Ohio State. This isn't like playing at Alabama where you have the best skill position, the best O-line, the best defense of every team that you're playing all year. Shudor's getting his butt kicked back there and he's getting up. I love to see it. But I think the other thing that I learned is kind of what I said a minute ago. We shouldn't move past and we shouldn't forget to appreciate everything that Coach Prime has done in his short time as the Colorado coach. Because at the end of the day, when I think about this team, the thing that stands out, they're still a work in progress and the schedule is going to get much tougher. And I know the people that are waiting for them to fail. Well, listen, you might have ammo. Oregon's a really good team next week. USC's a really good team in 2 weeks. But I don't think we should stop and not appreciate what he's already done. This was a team where their over-under Vegas win total was 3.5 coming into this year. They're 3-0 right now. They're 3-0 right now, which means all they got to do is beat a bad Arizona State team, bad Stanford team. They're going to get to 5 wins. Question is, can they beat a UCLA? Can they beat an Oregon State? Somebody like that. But that's all for another day. And I'm not going to, we got all week to break down the Oregon game this weekend in the bigger picture. I just think we have to appreciate how far this program has come. Because there's a lot of other programs that brought in a lot of transfers and the results haven't matched. Arizona State brought in 1 million transfers. They got destroyed by Fresno State at home on Saturday night. It hasn't clicked for a lot of other people as well. So what Coach Prime has done, what Colorado has done to be 3-0 at this point. Again, I get once they become the center of the sports world, it's easy to say, well, let's see what happens against Oregon or USC. I don't think we have to wait that long. I think we need to appreciate it. They are a team. They are a work in progress. By the way, I was thinking about this. They're 3-0. They're going to get bowl eligible. I don't know what the ceiling is. We've talked about that before. But at the same time, keep this in mind as well. This is probably the least talented roster that Coach Prime will ever have. A lot of big-time recruits were in town on Saturday. A ton are expected 2 weeks from now for USC. And he's going to get those guys that he needs along the defensive line, linebacker, offensive line. We know he can recruit quarterbacks, wide receivers, corners, all of that. Give him time. Now that there's a proof of concept, he's going to get the guys needed. This is probably his least talented team. And in a season where they were expected to win 3 games, 3.5 was their over-under win total. They're 3-0. I don't think we should dismiss that, even if the coverage has been insane. All right, so what I'm going to do, take a quick break. When we come back, we will wrap on the rest of a busy Saturday in college football. I want to talk the Florida Gators. I want to talk a couple other games and notes that I saw. Take a quick break. We will be right back.